Hey everyone, before we start the video, I just want to let you know this video is going to contain spoilers for the ending of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, my own personal thoughts on it, and many more. So if you have not completed the full game, save this video for later, go finish the game, come back, then I want to know all your thoughts down below in the comments, because I want to have lots of discussions about this. Please also know that just because I feel a particular way about something when it comes to the game, the ending, the characters, you name it, does not automatically make your feelings irrelevant or wrong or anything. Everyone just simply has different opinions on this. We've got about 3+ years until the next game comes out, so we've got a ways to go. Just want to include this before we start the video. Where do I even begin with a video like this? I've been gaming for over 20+ years, and few games to this day have had me constantly thinking about one particular game for literally a month straight. There is just something about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that just clicked. From the open world of the planet of Gaia to the fun and engaging combat, the character development we get between characters, and just seeing this game from when I was 6 years old become this amazing piece of art. I mean, it has to say something when I wake up to make videos every morning that something from this game will sneak into my brain as I prepare intros, guides, and more. So I want to talk about it one final time, at least for now. Just get it out there for others to listen to and see what everyone else thinks. Whether you agree or disagree, I want to have a conversation about the ending and what some parts mean. Finally, what are we most excited for when it comes to Part 3 when it releases, most likely in 2027? With all of this out of the way now, let's get started. Now, I know not everyone will agree with me, which is perfectly fine. And obviously, some did not enjoy Rebirth. If you're not invested in the characters, the world, or anything related to it, then it's definitely lower on the scale for those players, which is totally fine, by the way. The developers even said that they want this game to draw new players in, and that's not always going to draw every single person in, which is totally fine. A lot of people who enjoy this game have known these characters since the 90s, so it's a big ask sometimes. But regardless, all game reviews are opinions, nothing more. If you dislike this, perfectly fine. If you enjoy it, please let me know. But like I said in the intro, there's just something about this game that keeps drawing me back to it. I know it's not a perfect game. No game obviously is, but it can be perfect to you. And it's been a long time since I've played a game for over 120 hours in less than 2 weeks and keep wanting to go back to it. Plus, it's a single player game. Usually it's PvP games that kind of fill that slot for me. So what is on my mind when it comes to the game? Is it the cutscenes with the characters? Is it the gameplay? Well, of course it's those, but mostly it has to do with the ending. And I use quotations when I say ending simply because we know this is not the end of this game. There is still a part 3 to come. I mean, when this ending hit, damn, was my brain filled with so many questions and emotions. I don't think I ever searched other video essays, forums, and every form of media to read about this game and this world faster than I ever have before. Heck, if I open up YouTube on the train to work and I happen to see a discussion video about this game, I would literally watch it all the way until I reach downtown Tokyo. This game's ending left me with so many thoughts that I had to take a couple days just to process everything and look back at my recordings. Heck, my wife and I talked about this for a couple days during dinner, as she herself grew up with Final Fantasy VII as both a kid/teenager when she was growing up in Tokyo. From the original PS1 game, yes, I played it back in junior high, to the Advent Children movie, to the side books written over the years, and of course, the remake games. We had a lot to talk about, and we agreed on some things and other things we didn't. But again, we'll have to wait and see what happens with Part 3. Now, obviously, I don't have all the answers, and I can go only off of what I saw, what I think it means, using what I know from the original game, books, interviews, and more. So as I've stated many times already, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments after I'm done saying my piece. All right. First part I want to talk about is what everyone calls that scene. Yes, Aerith's death. It shook many a gamers back in the day, and it's considered to be one of the most well-known scenes in gaming. So of course, many were anticipating it. However, most seem to agree that the actual scene did not hit as much as it did back during the day. I personally think this is due to 2 reasons. First is due to what follows after said scene. After the scene, we go straight into back to back to back to back boss fights for over an hour, completely taking away any feeling from it. Now, in the original game, there was the fight with Genova, and it had the music playing in the background, and they mimicked that for the first boss fight. But after that, it just goes balls to the walls crazy, and I think that took a lot away from that particular scene. Who knows though, we could see some extra stuff in Part 3, we'll just have to wait and see. The second reason I personally think this did not hit as well is because we already know what's going to happen. Think about it. We have known for 25+ years that Aerith will die. Yes, Remake Part 1 made it seem like we could change fate, which we could still see in some version in Part 3. but Rebirth follows the original game by about 95%. Now, we could easily say that they dropped the ball, leave it at that, but I think this was somewhat planned. I mean, the entire team working on this game has been here since the beginning, and over 80% of the staff from Remake stayed on for Rebirth. They have this entire thing planned out, and in interviews, they have even said that they have the story stuff done. So again, we could say that they dropped the ball, but I get the feeling we're going to see this scene play out again in part 3 in a completely different way when Cloud truly breaks down at the Northern Crater. If you know, you know. So after having some time to think, I went back and I actually played this entire thing, re-recorded it again to make sure I wasn't missing anything. And after watching all of Chapter 14 over again, I noticed that the scene that got me was actually when Aerith pulls Cloud into her world that has accepted its fate. Not our Aerith and not Zack's world Aerith, but the third Aerith that we see in the game who is walking around. When she and Cloud are in the church and she says goodbye and hands him the white materia, then pushes him through the portal just as Sephiroth is entering the church. Damn. That hit hard. From her words, the music, and everything happening within that span of a minute, it hit me hard. I listened to both the English and Japanese, and I gotta say, both performances by Brianna White and Maya Sakamoto were absolutely amazing. Top marks. It's clear by watching these scenes that this version of Aerith knows that her world is almost finished, and she won't be around much longer. But seeing Cloud again, recreating her date with him that she had with Zack in the original Crisis Core, showed us that she knows what is going to happen no matter what, but part of her does not want things to end and she wants to continue to live. This scene hit me every single time I watched it. From the setting, the emotion, and just the ending itself. Just wow. Then we go back to our main timeline and our Aerith takes the materia, most likely aware of what is going to happen no matter what. If you ask me, for this game right here at least, this is that scene. After this, we jump over to the Forgotten City where that scene is supposed to happen. But this is where things kind of start to fall apart, especially for a lot of people. The moment Cloud's little headache starts where you see the static effect and everything, I knew something was up. Then seeing Aerith open her eyes, we don't know if this is Jenova playing with Cloud or the livestream version of her, we'll have to talk about that later, and Cloud just seems to be okay. It was clear something is really wrong. And then we jump into what a lot of people didn't like, which was the hour-long boss battle. Sorry, boss battles. It was just like, okay, I knew this would happen based on the original, and it did. Yet, no payoff initially when I watched this. I'm still of the personal belief that I think most of the boss battles should have happened before Aerith was praying, and then we got that scene kind of drawn out. However, I'm going to talk about this later, but I think they're probably saving that for part 3 when we get up to the Northern Crater and Cloud basically is lost. One thing that was brought to my attention, however, though, is when you start off with the boss battles, your entire team actually has their entire limit gauge filled, which is supposed to represent all the sadness and anger that they're feeling from seeing Aerith die. However, Cloud doesn't have any of that. Again, is this due to the static effect that we saw with his mind and thinking that he actually did save Aerith, didn't save Aerith? It's hard to say. And again, part 3 is probably going to explain a lot of that stuff. But in this particular part of this game, that was brought to my attention, and it definitely makes a lot of sense, especially when we get into the final scene of this game. And damn, what an ending. That hit again. It's almost like the church scene with the Otherworld Aerith hit super hard. The actual scene that everyone was anticipating didn't hit as hard. And then we get to the final scene, the big CGI scene at the end, and damn, it hit again. I mean, we skipped the burial scene and everyone is mourning over Aerith except for Cloud. Like, what? Was this due to the livestream version that he saw when he fought Sephiroth at the end? Which, by the way, I love Max's way of describing our Aerith. She is OP as heck. She has 5 game sharks, the game guide, and can see into the future. Absolutely love that little thing that he mentioned. So that was clearly Aerith who was part of the livestream, right? She knows what's going on. It's basically like the Sephiroth who many think is actually from Advent Children. We'll get into that part in a little bit here. However, as everyone's still sitting around mourning Aerith, Cloud gets that static headache that we've seen throughout the entire game and can now see Aerith and is all happy-go-lucky. But yet, no one else can see her, which is kind of a big red flag to me personally. Then we have the big final CG scene where the group leaves on the tiny Bronco. Now, this made me truly uncomfortable watching this scene, which I think the team was going for, by the way. It's like one of those like good moments that's uncomfortable, but if you know, you know, or if you're maybe thinking the way I did, and when my wife watched it, she looked at me and she says, "You're a little uncomfortable watching that scene, just how Cloud is acting." I said, right? That's exactly how I felt. I mean, heck, everyone is sad still, and Cloud is acting way out of character. Now let me know your thoughts down below, but after watching this scene over and over and over again, the Aerith he is talking to at the tiny Bronco before it takes off, I personally think is Jenova. Why do I think that? Well, it's something that Aerith said back at the beginning of chapter 14 before she died. She says, and I quote, "Focus on yourself, Cloud." This is during the part in the forest where she takes the white materia from Cloud. She even states she will handle Sephiroth. Yet in this scene at the very end, she is asking him to promise to find Sephiroth and fight him. In Japanese, she says, "Kitildayo," which is a strong way of asking him to do it. The yo in Japanese is used as a strong meaning at the end of sentences. It's almost like Jenova is having this Aerith Cloud can see act like her as he personally knows her, but is dropping these small little hints that the players can maybe pick up on. Plus, she literally drops the name Meteor, spelling out the end of the game, which I know Meteor has been seen in flash visions for the group, but in terms of actual name dropping, I'm pretty sure they don't actually know that the black materia is supposed to summon Meteor. So what the heck? Now, I know everyone's going to point to the fact that Red 13 seems to sense Aerith for a second when he and Tifa are mourning her still. And I originally thought this so too, but after watching it over and over again, something just isn't adding up. Again, we got a minimum of 3 years until Game 3 comes out, which is going to cover a ton of stuff. There's most likely also going to be flashback scenes, so only time is going to tell. I mean, it's like Remake all over again. Theories will be talked about until the release of Game 3. Also, seeing Barret and Tifa, damn, Tifa is just simply going through it right now. When they looked at each other thinking, yeah, this dude is not okay, that kind of helped me confirm my own personal thoughts and opinions when it comes to this ending of the game. My final reason for thinking that this is Jenova playing tricks with Cloud's mind is simply because the livestream version of Aerith is able to somewhat be sensed by the others of the group. Yet this particular version of Aerith, no one else can. One thing that happened right before the release of this game was the Advent Children airing again in theaters. This movie released over 10 plus years ago, and they purposely brought it back for us to watch it. That's kind of where everyone's getting that thought of, oh, the Sephiroth from Advent Children that was defeated / is still in the live stream somehow, that Sephiroth found a way to come back, and that's this whole remake trilogy timeline type of thing. Again, if you're not into the multiverse or any timeline splitting stuff, I get it. But regardless, that's what a lot of people think, and kind of makes sense when it comes to the movie. I'm not fully on board with that, but it does somewhat make sense to a degree. However, getting back to the movie, there is a moment where Tifa notices the drops of water when the rain starts healing everybody from the geostigma. She recognizes it being Aerith, even though she's a part of the live stream. She even says, "You've been with us this entire time." I mean, Tifa and Aerith had huge development in this game. You're telling me that livestream Aerith can't do something, give her a hint or a sign that she is still with them, technically? I don't know, I'm just not buying it. Some might say that I'm reading too much into this, or again, go back to the whole Red 13 thing, which is perfectly fine. Everyone's going to have their own opinions on this, and the only people who know how this is truly going to work out are the people actually making the game, so only time is going to tell. Now, I could go on and on talking about the ending, analyzing every inch and frame and everything when it comes to this, but we'd be here for literally eternity. So again, as I've stated many times in this video, I want to know your thoughts down below in the comments. But there are some other things that are still in my mind, just extra little details that I kind of noticed. Not all of them are questions that I have, but just simply things that I noticed and I can't wait to see in the next game. During all the scenes with Zack when he is alone, Aerith is there always helping him. Notice the flowers, the petals, and the light anytime we simply see them, and it shows that their connections that they made during Crisis Core is easily going to carry over into Part 3. I find it super sweet that Aerith is still looking after Zack. Heck, all of the character moments are absolutely amazing in this game. Barret calling Red 13 Nanaki after the Cosmo Canyon stuff, Tifa and Aerith throughout this entire game, Cloud starting to lighten up on some of the side missions. Personally love the part where Vincent leaves the group at chapter 12 to go off on his own, and Cloud makes a comment about not needing another loner, and the entire group just simply laughs at him. Absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to see what happens with Cloud in Part 3. Seeing other side characters like Cisne from Crisis Core and the Turk training missions, that definitely brought back a bit of nostalgia from that game. And of course, seeing Cloud and Tifa setting up their even bigger moments for Part 3. If you know from the original, you know what's going to happen. Another thing I noticed while playing the game was actually how some of the translations were handled when it comes to certain lines that are stated and how they differ between English and Japanese. Now, before I continue on with this part, because I've seen this online already, translating is not an easy job. It is very hard, especially for a game as massive as this. So I do not blame any translators when it comes to certain lines and how they're portrayed. Heck, my wife and I were talking about this for literally a week straight about how certain things are said. She's Japanese, I'm from the States, and even we have trouble translating certain things, so some things just don't translate very well between languages. That being said, when you listen to the lines in Japanese and know what it means, it can have anywhere from a little to big differences. Heck, I even saw online that the subtitles for other languages seem to be closer to the original Japanese meaning, but English for some reason is not the same in all of its places. For example, when Cloud brings the white materia back to the main timeline, Sephiroth says, "That should not be here." But then he says this weird line of "very poor form," which is just very random. When I listened to this in Japanese and even confirmed with my wife, he says, "Atsuga hitsuyo dana," which literally translates to "you need to be punished." How do you go from "you need to be punished for bringing that thing that should not be here," again, the "that should not be here" line is accurately translated, but how do we go from that to "very poor form"? Maybe in some way it does technically mean the same thing, but if you're reading that at face value, that can mean something very different. Another example of this is when Cloud and Aerith are in the church. When Aerith says, "Oh, next time," Cloud replies with, "I mean, why not?" Yet when he says the line in Japanese, it says, "Nakama dakara da," which directly translates to "because we are part of the same group." Now, if you don't know, nakama refers to a group of friends, not just two people. Plus, my wife made this comment about the way Cloud says this in Japanese, that he sees Aerith at the same level as others in the group, like Barret and Tifa. Simply one big family, which again, goes back to what the original definition of nakama. Now, I'm not going to get into any of the shipping or anything like that, but being able to tell feelings with lines and tones can make a huge difference. So again, I know translating is very difficult, and some words just simply don't translate well between languages. But I really hope for the ending scenes and those big important scenes for the third game that they take their time and go back over them. I mean, by Sephiroth saying to Cloud that he needs to be punished, that could have more weight to the scene of Aerith dying. I mean, if he says, "Oh, you brought that back, I need to punish you now," and that literally results in Aerith's death, even though again, we know that this is going to be happening since the original game, that makes a huge difference to just simply, poor form, and just leaves. That doesn't make much sense to me personally. Or another example is Sephiroth referring to the worlds disappearing / their deaths with Hoshi, which means planet. Now, on the surface, this is pretty close to both translations and works out perfectly fine. But saying the worlds are dying / die, return to the planet, aka the live stream, compared to they are just gone, as it says in the original statement there, can change how we look at this multiverse that it's trying to hint at. I mean, heck, if you are somebody who does care about the relationships in this game, knowing the differences between some of these words can mean a lot of different things. Now, I could continue to go on and on about translations and everything. I'm not a professional translator, so again, I know it's a tough job and everything. But it's just something that my wife and I picked up on when we were watching the end of this game, watching the scenes over and over, and just constantly talking about it throughout the week. Overall, though, I still think this game is absolutely amazing, and I will probably continue to talk about it with friends, to reply to comments, social media posts, and more until the final game is released. I'm still predicting it's going to be a 2027 release because that will mark 30 years of Final Fantasy VII, and it will most likely be on both the PS5 and the PS6. I mean, I have the biggest grin on my face thinking about all the new places we're going to be able to visit, like Rocket Town, Wutai, Northern Crater, Cloud's memories, the weapons, and so many more. I'm personally loving the remake trilogy as it's pretty overall faithful to the original source. Yet they're trying to expand a ton of the scenes with some of the characters and also try some new things sprinkled in here or there. Many believe that the Sephiroth in this game, like I said beforehand, is from Advent Children, and he's trying to create a brand new reality where he does not lose. It would also make some sense since Aerith would know all about this too, being in the livestream, hence the ending. Now, I know that's a very simplified explanation of this, but it's just one more bit to add to the next 3 years of discussions that we're definitely all going to be having. I also think that the empty materia orb that Aerith gave Cloud is going to play a huge role when it comes to getting his original memories back when Tifa is helping him. Why else add all of that over the course of the last 2 games with showing it, the orb losing its power, getting the other Aerith's version of the white materia, and finally giving the empty one back to Cloud? I mean, it's even stated that materia and memories go hand in hand. Oh, and one thing I didn't realize until really recently is Marlene, Barret's daughter. I believe Marlene is going to play a huge role when it comes to Zack, because it's clear that she knows a good chunk of what's happening. Why do I say that? Well, when Aerith rescued her in Remake, she did not trust her at first. It wasn't until Aerith touched her hand that Marlene trusted her. Now, what I personally think, and I've also seen this online as well, a lot of people think that Aerith showed her to some degree what is going to happen going down the road, and that's why she trusted her after that. Plus, how else would Marlene know about Sephiroth and Cloud being too late to save her? Game 3 is going to be crazy, and it's going to be in the best way possible, and I cannot wait. Oh, man, this is going to be a long 3 years. All right, I think I've rambled on long enough, but I want to know your thoughts down below. This game is just, it's something else. It truly is. And again, not everyone's going to share that opinion. I 100% get that. So let's just have an honest conversation down below like civil adults. Let's see what everyone thinks. Do you think Jenova is actually manipulating Cloud? Do you really think that's the live stream version of Aerith? What are you most excited for when it comes to part 3 of the game? Because that is going to be huge. This game ended where disc 1 ended in the original game. And part 3, aka disc 2 from the original game, is supposed to have everything that was included there, not to mention a huge emphasis on Wutai, some areas that we originally saw in the first disc, but are now being pushed to the third game. What's going to happen? It's anyone's guess, but this next game is going to be absolutely massive, and I cannot wait to see it. But that's going to be it for me, though. If you enjoy these type of discussions, then consider checking out our other plays down below and in the top right corner. And if you really want to support the channel, then a like on the video is always appreciated. And you can also go ahead and sub to the channel for having more videos like this. I've been Talon with Direct Gaming. Thank you so much for stopping by the video. I hope you have a great day and week. And until next time, everyone, we will see you all in the next one. Johnny.